All right, welcome to the very first episode of Curious Felipe, and I'm here. uh, I'm here with Eric Petterson.
Petterson, yeah.
Yeah, and the owner of Tapzion, owner of many other
Co-owner, yeah.
co-owner. Sorry, the co-owner of Tapzion, and many other business before that. I kind of wanted to pick your brain. I've known you for about 3 to 4 months now, and I've seen your passion. I've seen what you've done at Tapizon here in El Segundo. I kind of want to, talk to you about your history, how you got here, where did all start. Let's start from the very beginning. You had, well, it's not, I don't know if it's the very first beginning, but you had before that, but you had a coffee shop in New York, very successful. It
Right.
was about 25 years, right?
Almost 30.
Almost 30
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
And how did that start? How do you going back there? How do you put yourself back there? And how did that start?
Um, you know, can I go farther back? Maybe?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
for it as back as you can.
So I don't, when I'm here in El Segundo, in California, Los Angeles, doing what I'm doing here, or how I even ended up in New York, the I would, and we're talking about entrepreneurialism, right? So it's like I don't know. I think back about what we're about to talk about today. It's like as a kid, being in a military family, I had to move all the time, so I always had to adapt, and I think that has helped me a lot in adapting
Yeah.
what we do. But for years, I kept moving. I ended up in Miami my last year in high school. I was a swimmer. I was athletic, and it was being a competitive person. I've always had that in me. And I have to say, I think going to University of Miami was the beginning of finding my creative side quite a bit. I studied with engineering was my first studies, but fell into theater a little bit by mistake. My girlfriend was an actress, and I thought that was an easy thing to do.
Uh-huh.
Um, it wasn't, because she dared me. I told her to get out of my hair one night, and I was studying for an engineering exam that I had to pass. And she kept bugging me and wanted to go out dancing. And I was like, leave me alone. What you do is so easy in college. What I do is really difficult.
Uh-huh.
She went off on me. And I'm just going to start there because she dared me to try out for the show coming up at the theater at University of Miami the following week. I did. And I got a part. No
Wow.
experience. So I was like, what's so hard about this, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Acting is hard.
Yeah.
But it was, we had to learn all about theater, all about building things. And I like building and all that stuff. But I have to say, all this stuff was a very important part of where I'm at today in building restaurants. Because in theater, you create sets, you create images, you create a new environment, an experience. You come in as an audience and you go someplace else,
Yeah.
just like film.
Right.
And I didn't know it at the time, but it became part of my life in this business. It became theater and opening restaurants after 33 years. So the coffee shop was a very big, successful place. And I had lived around the world. I was in the fashion world for a while, right out of college. By accident, that happened also as a swimmer. The Speedo catalog came to our swimming pool.
So in college, you started as a swimmer, did it there, and went into theater, and then
Yeah, and marketing. I ended up adapting all the time because
Uh-huh.
the engineering classes, I got into calculus too, and I'm going, what the,
yeah.
and yeah, so I was going towards a creative direction in some way. Marketing and theater were my majors, and in Miami was a great place to be. As a swimmer, this opportunity came, and I was working to get through college at $3 an hour. The photographer picked a few of us to be real swimmers in this catalog, and the first thing I asked was, how much do you pay? $50 an hour. And all we had to do was stand there in our Speedos
Yeah.
and smile, which what we did every day.
Uh-huh.
Three of us that
Right.
were chosen. That was an odd thing because when I graduated, it's the person I worked for in Miami for quite a while, and he said I should go to New York, and I did. And he said I should go see the Ford company. I did. They didn't want me, no experience basically, but the opportunity sent me to Paris. They have a sister company there, and I never knew I could make money doing that, but
Uh-huh.
I landed in Paris. They put me together over there, and for the next 5 years of my life, I traveled the world,
Being a
that
model.
world. Yeah. And
Wow.
it was an amazing experience to see the world in many ways, all parts of the world. And I was very fortunate and always been blessed that way, but
Yeah.
never took it seriously because it's kind of,
Well, it was kind of like a fun thing for you.
well,
Like
fun.
it was,
Yeah. And,
yeah.
you're around interesting things and very creative people. I mean,
Yeah.
unbelievable. And then you're seeing and experiencing parts of the world that have actually helped me shape the way I think about the world and the way
Mhm.
I like being in this country a lot because I've seen a lot.
Right.
And being an entrepreneur is always been exciting to me because with my experience and knowledge, at least what I had,
Uh-huh.
I felt like the first time I opened a bar, it was a place called Live Bait. It was an old Blarney Stone. Back in 1987, I'd come back to New York.
This is
Yeah,
after you traveled the world, you did the
yeah,
whole modeling.
yeah, and the
Then you
acting thing was kind of there as a bug a little bit.
Mhm.
I was still, I'd done a lot of TV commercials,
Yeah.
and people kept saying, "Eric, you should really go for this." And I'm like, it wasn't really in my soul to be an actor,
Mhm.
but I did. The thing that turned me around is the first time I ever came to LA was for a show called Star Search.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, wow, how did I get that?
Yeah.
So I did lose by a
Uh,
quarter of a point, and I don't want to go all the way into that, but I walked all the way back to my hotel on Sunset Boulevard that night, and I'm walking back, and my friends from University of Miami that were out here trying to study, or I mean, do their thing,
uh-huh.
were waiting for me, and they ended up at my hotel. I just walked back like with my tail between my legs and said, "You know what, Eric? This is like my girlfriend initially said. This is hard stuff. I mean, anyone
Right.
that does well in this industry that's out here, I take my hat off to them because it is hard work, and you have to, be tough in many
Right.
ways."
It's a lot up and down.
hmm And then I went back to New York, and I bought a house on the cheap and started rebuilding it outside in Montclair, New Jersey. And another friend of mine who really wanted to be in the restaurant business, who I met in the fashion world, wanted to open a restaurant, and
Mhm.
he was trying to open a big thing with no track record, and he ended up finding Blarney Stone, and I thought to myself, well, I know how we can build this out a little bit and kind of on the cheap,
Mhm.
and we did, and it was a place called Live Bait, and it was opened by an agency I was associated with in New York, Wilhelmina Models. One of my partners was a beautiful woman who was pretty well known in that agency during Fashion Week back in 1987. Um, we weren't ready to open. We didn't have our kitchen ready, but we opened it anyway because we were running out of money. And
Excuse me.
yes, hey,
Coffee?
speaking of a
Thank you.
handsome man, thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Yeah. So,
There you go.
yep.
Awesome.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sugar or nothing? There you go.
So to jump,
Right.
thanks, Carlos. So jumping into this business, here's another entrepreneur, and the years that I've been doing this is always working with other people. And
Yeah.
it's a gentleman and his wife who were from Sao Paulo, and the family had a coffee farm. They were branding their coffee, and this is for the first time they're branding something with us.
Yeah.
It's called Bom Gosto.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
Brazilian
Yeah, and
coffee.
it's absolutely great. And this is what I get excited about because I get a
Yeah.
lot of energy from others,
Mhm.
including doing this with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of
That's
different
awesome.
for me.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's like bringing everybody together that's
Yeah.
on the same path.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
went back to your first restaurant.
yeah. So the fashion world opened my first restaurant. So you can imagine
That kind of helped,
it did.
to get like kind of like very
Again, very fortunate.
very for. I mean, yeah. You kind of helped finance
Mhm.
the first. Not help. That was actually
No, it was like 5 of us actually that
It
had
was
the
5
same amount of
Oh, cool.
money.
Okay.
We built it ourselves, except for the plumbing and the electricity. I do recall being in the basement of the place with Charles and with a jackhammer at 2 a.m. because we wanted to save money for the plumber
Yeah.
to replace the waistline. Those kind of things we did because we had to. We didn't have that much money,
Yeah.
but we had a little secret. And the thing is we had to work very hard because the door opened and we had the ability to draw this crowd in,
Yeah.
but we had to perform. So we really worked hard to keep it going. And New York, it was it's a pulsating city, and it's
Right.
that kind of city. When I first arrived there, it was like I was looking down on it from the plane. That song, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Right.
I was nervous as whatever. You're looking down at New York City like an ant farm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When you get down on the street, it is pounding.
Intimidating.
It is intimidating, but you know what? It's driving. It is driving.
Yeah, it just pushes
That
you.
driving
That's
force.
kind of the mentality of the entrepreneur, right?
Exactly
You always
right.
have to be pushing.
Exactly right.
You just don't have that security that everybody kind of, not everybody, but most people
Yeah.
have or want to have, which is the security of the paycheck every 2 weeks.
Right.
And that's kind of
Yeah.
you jump right into it.
Yeah. And the paychecks weren't really there right off the bat,
Yeah.
but
How long did it take to actually start taking off the first restaurant?
this, it started pretty damn quickly. And September and all the way through the holiday season, I mean, it just was nonstop. And
Yeah.
so I had the fortune to have that start. And of course, in those days, you didn't have Instagram. You had things like Page 6 in the Post. And of course, that's the gossip page.
Right.
It seemed like everybody who was doing everything to everybody was in live bait. There was a reason for that name. It was a Southern Roadhouse,
All right.
low country cuisine, North Carolina, South Carolina. So fishing is kind of in your mentality when you say live bait, but there's other kinds of bait that was walking around.
Yeah. That's cool. That's actually really good.
We built the place and we had success with it. And 3 years later, we knew we were chomping at the bit for something bigger.
Yeah.
And I lived a little farther downtown from live bait, but I used to stop at this Greek diner on the way to work every morning. Got to know this guy named Nick Siderakis, a Greek guy. And I had breakfast there always. And he was telling me one day that he wasn't going to be able to pay the rent. And at some point, he'd been there for a long time. And my partners and I went there. And we'd seen it before. It was in a rough area called Union Square at the time. A lot of empty stores. And the park was known as Needle Park. It was kind of a rough area. But, when you're in New York, it's funny because I think you can see and feel certain neighborhoods can pop a little bit.
Yeah. You
especially
kind of shifting towards.
Yeah, and it's a little bit here in LA. You're looking at faraway communities.
Right.
Not that they're that far away, but they're far away because people kind of like to stay in their own hoods.
Yeah, because it's
pretty
so
much
spread out here.
Yeah, and traffic, and you don't have subways and all these things. I've been learning a lot about in the last year, but so this place became really well known. And it all started with Brazil, which this current place has a lot to do with Brazil also.
Yeah.
And I had been to Brazil in my fashion days, but my partners had not. And we were trying to take this Greek diner. We were making arrangements with Nick and actually talked to a major landlord in the city. And we talked about keeping Nick doing breakfast because we could do everything till 4 o'clock in the morning at our other place.
Yeah.
We knew how to do lunch, dinner, and the bar business.
Right.
So this coffee shop was definitely set up to be around the clock pretty much. And it became that way. And Nick, to make it all happen, was the guy doing breakfast. And he was part of our engine. Yeah, it was kind of a quirky, kind of nice mix. Great guy. Anyone in our business works really hard, and Nick, for years, worked very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't really understand the way we did our business. But when we were trying to make this happen, it was Nick's wife who was eyeballing us like these young kids, whatever.
Yeah. What are you doing?
We had to take them to our bar at Live Bait, sat them right in front of the register during happy hour, that time, and it was banging. And Eugenia, his wife, was like looking at me, looking at Nick, and all of a sudden a big smile was coming to her face. She was tough. And that's the magic that had happened because they saw this amazing, and we were decent people.
Yeah.
So it happened, and the magic happened even more with that place. And we acquired more and more space in the building and had a lot of things going on. Yeah.
And so you were doing both of those at the same time for a while.
What?
live bait and
Yes, yeah. We had 5 operations at one time over
oh,
the last 30 years, and one of them, after a coffee shop opened, I got very involved with local community. It was part of the Union Square Partnership, business improvement. I was on a board for 25 years, improving our neighborhood in many ways.
yeah,
One thing the park needed, and we had such a following from Live Bait, which is only up 7 blocks away from where coffee shop was, that people would travel and easily come down Broadway to us. But it was still kind of an edgy, dangerous kind of area.
yeah,
The more and more I got involved with like the city and politics, the Parks Department. The people I was working with, we were talking about putting an operation in the park. We had the coffee shop right next to the park, and there was an RFP, request for proposal, to do an operation in the park. And basically, like Nathan's Hot Dogs would bid on stuff like that. But we had this al fresco dining.
And what's the operation? What is it?
It was for 14 summers, right after coffee shop opened, about 3 years after.
Yeah.
We got involved in that park, and we created an al fresco dining situation where we built 2 kiosks. One was a bar, and one was a kitchen. And we had a little bit of use.
Like a pop-up thing.
Pop-up, but it was serious throughout the winter. It was still there. It lasted a long time. And the funny thing about being an entrepreneur and seeing a vision like we did, the 3 of us, not only were we right there to support this park, and that was an important thing because the coffee shop was the mothership, and we could support that restaurant in the way that we saw it. And the great thing about what that restaurant was, we got involved with a headhunter that was always looking for chefs to place them in different places. We got to know this guy really well. And so every summer in that park, there were a lot of well-known chefs now that were looking to find a new place. And sometimes he would grab them. We'd have them cooking in our park. Although most of that restaurant was known for its fun, being outside, al fresco dining, but it was also about drinking and having fun in Union Square Park. And what that did for the city and this part of the city, and what I got so involved in the neighborhood about, is it totally brought people back into the park at night. And then what even got to be more fun was I met this guy from Australia that wanted to create the Manhattan Short Film Festival. And we talked, this is him coming in, looking at the people that worked for me. Yeah. And we started talking about films and stuff like that. And he says, this is what I want to do. And I said, have you ever thought about Cinema Paradiso outside? He says, yeah, I love that. So we started talking about doing it in the park on Sundays at this particular restaurant. And then he created this festival that was in the park in September, the last contest for the best films of the summer.
Oh, wow.
And that's something like we'd like to do, my partner and I would like to do here too, when we get things going a little bit more. And we're in Hollywood, right? So a lot of young filmmakers.
There's a lot of me everywhere.
Perhaps you might be one.
Yeah, maybe. But that's like what I really appreciate about like the entrepreneurship thing is that it becomes more rewarding when you do more other than just raising capital and making money. You helping the city, you helping the people. As you mentioning that you keep talking about how fun it is, how fun it was. Fun it was, and that seems like to be one of the most rewarding part of being an entrepreneur and thriving for the business that you have, because it just brings more people. All of a sudden you offsetting all the success of this to other parks, people, chefs, and you created this thing now that is just not for you anymore. It's just for the community.
It's about giving. Yeah. And hospitality is about that. It's about service and also finding purpose. I think what we find in the hospitality business is that, like creating this, okay, it is. I put my heart and soul into this, as did Elmir.
Yeah.
And I did bring this little picture here, right?
Yeah.
And I during the process of this
is the picture. Yeah. I'll put it up. Okay.
Yeah. It is us in Brazil. This is second trip. My partners, I took them to Brazil. They'd never been there before. We were trying to do something with this coffee shop.
And this is after coffee shop.
Oh, this is before. This is how coffee shop began in New York.
Okay.
My partners and I were talking to Nick, like I was talking about, and he was magic to get us to do the deal because it was just the way the deal went down. But he had no idea of the vision that we had. And two partners had never been to Brazil before. So I was coming from Miami. I had Cuban friends, and we were looking for old Havana, kind of maybe into this coffee shop that we took over. It was a strict, basic Greek diner. It was very, very simple, very like Seinfeld kind of diner, right? So there wasn't much to it with ambiance. And coming from theater again, learning about lighting and all this kind of stuff, and trying to create something, take you someplace else with all the travels I'd done.
Yeah.
I said to Charles and Carolyn, we went to Miami and Calle Ocho, and the grandparents and my Cuban friends coming directly from Cuba from Castro times would get angry. You can't find Havana in Miami. And so we were going into a dead wall there to find that magic of Havana in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
So I said to them, let's go have a caipirinha. And I was joking with them, and a caipirinha is the famous Brazilian drink down in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
And I said, it's a Brazilian drink. And they said, where do you want to go? Something like that.
Yeah.
I said, Rio, let's go. Let's hop a plane. We did. And awesome. We jumped down there, and it was, bless you.
Yeah.
But it's you're allergic to your country.
No,
you're not.
Well,
it's magic.
I'm just getting excited.
Maybe that's it. but the caipirinha was the magic, because they'd never been there before. I'd been there. We arrived in Rio. That afternoon, we checked into our hotels. We went right down to the beach, Copacabana part.
Yeah.
And there was a vendor down there. I'll never forget this. We were excited to go to the beach. They were already seeing the magic of Rio just driving in. And we were staying right at the cusp of Ipanema and Rio, the hotel, the Royal Hotel, I think it was called, or something like that. But so we went to the beach, and here's this vendor, very tan guy, always on the beach. And he had plastic cups and ice and clear liquid. I kind of forgotten the name of the drink, but I knew what it was. And he had the limes, and he was muddling them. And I was like this. My Portuguese still sucks, but so there we were, and paid for it, and we're standing there, and we're looking at the beautiful ocean. We're looking back at Copacabana and the beautiful swirling sidewalk, and we toast and we sip, and I'm looking at them in the eyes, and both of them were going, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is it. And then we went back to our hotels to clean up, to explore. We had our own books. No, Google, nothing back then.
Maps, nothing.
We didn't really need a car. And we're driving around, and we see all these people in the street in an area that I didn't really know where we were, but it was Ipanema,
right, in
a part called Leblon. And that's where all these young people were on the street.
To this day, it's like that.
Huh?
Until this day.
Like, yeah,
it's like that's where the place.
Yeah, and it was just, and I knew my partners were going to love it, because you just feel the rhythm of Brazil everywhere. Yeah, and the way people walk and the way they talk. Like, we just had an Italian gentleman here, right? Yeah. That came in, and just like they're
very similar.
Oh yeah, passionate, right? So they were on the street, and Carolyn was wearing. We looked like New Yorkers. My God, we were. I mean, kind of wearing black. I mean, it was like ridiculous here in Rio de Janeiro. Right. So we were walking in, and I remember walking into this place. We wanted to go get a caipirinha. It was packed with people, and of course, the men were looking at her, and it was kind of a gentle, aggressive look. Right. She was definitely not Brazilian, but she was to look at. Yeah. And Charles was behind. She was in between us. I was walking in, and this is where the magic of this photo Almir comes into the picture. And in that bar, I'm trying to get to the bar, and all of a sudden, somebody to the right of me goes, "What the you doing in my country?" aggressively. And he said it to me twice, aggressively. And I look at him, and there's a bunch of guys behind, and they're looking a certain way. And I'm looking at Carolyn. She's getting a little nervous, a little bit, and Charles. And I didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden, he pulls back from me, goes, "No, what are you doing in my city?" Kind of an American way, in a way, yeah, but with an accent. And I said, "Well, we're actually here to research for a restaurant." So, not to make that story too long, but that's my partner right now.
That's how, yeah. That's how me with the co-owner of Tapzion here as well.
1989, 1990. So this now is 33 years later. And this picture here, I look at because I went back collecting things for the coffee shop, the building of coffee shop. And that's the second time I went back. And if you look at it carefully, we were above Ipanema,
Yeah.
looking down at the beach, but also there's a swimming pool about 4 stories below. And I'm so happy, and had no idea this guy was just, from University of Florida.
Yeah.
And we were talking about having him come to New York after he graduated to work with us, the caipirinha and the whole Brazilian thing. And he was so helpful at the time to help build coffee shop. And as we were building coffee shop, he did graduate. He worked in live bait a little bit. We were testing out the caipirinhas and bachitas at live bait. And we were testing them on people just to get a feel for how people were responding to them before we opened the coffee shop. He was living with me, okay, because we were trying to save money to open the coffee shop. Yeah. So I had to deal with him, right? And he was a crazy karaoke.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, he was whatever. One day oh my God. Yeah. One day I came in, I thought I had the wrong apartment. I was running around and opened no furniture in my apartment. I'm going, what the hell's going on? And I shut my door. I looked at my number on the door. It's my apartment. I opened the door. He's on the floor, on the rug. I tell this story all the time. Yeah. He's on his back like this with some guy on top of him. And all of a sudden I could smell the sweat in the room. My apartment. I'm like, what the? You know what? They bounced up, and he introduced me to a guy named Hickson. Yeah. And that turns out, never heard of. I thought Hickson's kind of a cool name. Yeah. And it turns out Hickson Gracie. Hickson Gracie. I knew nothing. I knew nothing about jiu-jitsu. This is 1990, right? But this family, and Amir studied, jiu-jitsu with that family. Yeah. And lo and behold, look at what that family's all about. Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable. So to me, in life and being entrepreneurial, and my excitement about even here in LA, trying to figure out how to crack the code here a little bit, it is the excitement of the energy that comes from people like meeting and being able to tell stories like this that are part of my life that gets me to here. And being part of an entrepreneur, I think you leave yourself open to a lot of experiences. And then if you're lucky enough, I think you try to find a focus. Mm-hmm. And for me, that has always loved people and always been curious. Yes. Yeah. If you're not curious, nothing happens. If you don't take some action, fear is everywhere all the time. It's like even coming here to Los Angeles, my partners and I were always told, come out here, open one of these coffee shops, open live bait. Actually, one of our customers in 1988 was asking us to come to Hermosa to do live bait. We came out here to look at it. The three of us were in our own worlds up in New York, and we just never did. But we were also looking in Los Angeles, valet parking, this and that. New York was different. We always were your subways. A lot
of cars.
And if you were to drink out here, of course, you got to be very careful about people that drink in your bars. So we do have a wonderful bar for for the use that it has, but at the same time, you can't have these raucous kind of places that nightclubish kind of, which the coffee shop was till 6 in the morning. Yeah. Wow. So we also had a ballroom there. We also created a lounge downstairs when we got more space in the building, and then a taqueria in the back to create more revenue in the latter days of the coffee shop. So these are things that you're thinking too. Even the coffee shop, with all its fame and notoriety and the money that was being made there, through time, things change and rents get higher and all that. So as an entrepreneur, you're trying to figure out all kinds of ways to keep it going and all that.
Try to adapt and figure out how to.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, the coffee shop, 2018. Now there's Chase Bank there. It's the only kind of tenant that could afford that kind of rent that we got to. And now,
so you went from a place that was kind of dangerous to be
very, very
to a point. Yeah, that the rent is almost on the floor.
Yeah, and people just can't believe it was as bad as it was. But New York went through a great transition for about 25 years with 2 different mayors. It was sparkling. I mean, my friends and I were always up in Harlem with some great chefs up there, and when I first got to New York, it was not a place to go. And now, that's what's so exciting about New York. You can just see pockets popping, and here, I think in LA. I see a little bit of that too, where I'm at now in El Segundo. I'm near an international airport, but I'm also in what they call the Mayberry by the Sea. It is a small town. I freaked out when I pulled in here.
Yeah.
My ex-wife was an actress. I was always out here in the old days. She was working on some shows with spelling and all that. And my kids were young, and I'd be back and forth in the red eye. So always looking for restaurants without Google, of course, but going north, going Santa Monica to Malibu even before the red eye.
Yeah.
And when I turned in here, and Elmer just gone back to Brazil to see his family, someone told me to come here to look at this place that I'm at. It was a shack of a place. And I turned that onto Main Street here, and I'm like, what the heck? But this is like a small town in a big city.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Unbelievable, right? And it had this charm. And like, well, my mom comes from northern Minnesota, the Midwest. It was started by the Midwest, the oil and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it has that hometown Main Street kind of flair, and that's why people love it. Families are here for the education. The schools are amazing. Almir and his family is here from Brazil now for 3 years. The kids are studying here.
Yeah.
Their English is fluent, and I say I'm gonna speak Portuguese someday. But it's a magical place in a way. But it is as an entrepreneur trying to figure out, okay, what's the right
move?
Right.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
We have something special, and we know what we're doing. We have just to figure out how to expose ourselves to what we're doing.
Right.
It's a
in the
healthy
right way, in the right place.
Yeah, it's a healthy way of eating. And that's what I was introduced to in Sao Paulo a while ago, 5 years ago. And it's gluten-free.
Yeah.
And most people think of Brazilian restaurants, churrascaria.
Yeah, no, it's completely different.
This is, we don't eat all that. Brazilians don't eat that way all the time, and that's what we have a mentality for. But it is about thinking, how do you shape that a little bit? How do you market that?
Yeah,
that's the.
Well, it's interesting too, because if you look at even the story that you've been saying from the beginning, starting theater, then going to live bait, and then creating the whole atmosphere, and then remodeling coffee shop. It kind of the whole thing throughout all this, and here at Tapzion, it's the experience and the environment and how you feel when you get here. It seems like it's been
takes you someplace else.
Yeah, and it seems like it's been your current, success thing throughout the whole thing is the creativity, and that's one of the things too. When I talk to entrepreneurs, is like creativity is the key to success. And it's probably because you really need to start keep reinventing yourself or adapting to everything. And I think creativity always stays on top. And that's kind of how I feel here. When people come here, the place is well designed. The place is the interior design is awesome. You feel like in Búzios in Brazil, which is like a nice, beach place. But it's so
sexy.
Sexy, everything. Chic,
Brigitte Bardot comes to mind.
Right.
This place really takes you back to Bossa Nova, 1958. I think just above your head there is this beautiful constellation. Howard Hughes made it right here. He designed it, Lockheed. TWA used to fly it. Sexy plane. I hate to say that, but when you look at design too, it's curves and it's lighting, and it's even in New York. My partners and I were always trying to create. You're busy on the streets in New York, and all of a sudden you step through the doors of something like even Live Bait. We tried to make you feel like you were down in South Carolina, North Carolina. The food had to kind of match that. The bar had to be that way. We had the Bubba Slush. I mean,
that's cool.
It was a sick drink. I mean, and we had Bubba. We named it after him.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it's about what I learned in theater. It's like when the door is open, and even with staff, sometimes the staff is not there. They're always moving on, and we've had a lot of interesting people in my lifetime that worked for us that went on to following their passions.
Yeah.
So the other thing my business does is, and I've seen a lot of shy people sometimes come out of themselves and find courage by waiting tables, getting to know how to relate to people. And it is about communication. And for me, I think I think part of the magic about being an entrepreneur is having the passion. And I think people feel the energy from that passion.
Yes.
And if you're looking to even seek money, I had the fortune in New York. My partners and I always could roll over what we were doing into the next place.
Right.
So we never had to deal with other people's money. This is something I always thought we could have done, but we never did do. So here's I'm in another place in my life right now for the bigger vision of what we start here. The flagship of Tapzion has a bigger vision, but we have to keep paying attention to this to get that rolling. But OPM is what we're going to be, and what we are pursuing right now. With them, when the people come in here, they see the beginnings of something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the going back to the passion to me is what overtakes the fear that comes with entrepreneur. I think most people play with that a bit, but always find that it's more comfortable not to fully jump. And when you have the passion, it's just easy to commit to that jump because you can't stop thinking about it.
As a successful person that way, there's a lot of pragmatic people that are very successful, and that's the way their brain works. To me too, having I've always felt like even talking to you right now, and it is all about partnership. Being because nobody can do everything, so it's as you have artists, so many brilliant artists, whether they're actors. I mean, there's so many brilliant actors out there that never get that shot.
Right.
And so a lot of people that do can run through that door and then boom. And sometimes it's so overpowering. Some have issues going on and we don't have them here anymore, which is sad. But you have to, like Almir, my partner. My God, I've known him for 33 years. I feel there was a connection way back then. I let him live with me. And he was a lot of fun. He was a jokester. I'm a bit of a jokester too.
Yeah.
I like to have a little fun. But at the same time, I don't know if I would have been doing this again after doing this for a long time in New York. But when I went down to Brazil, I saw something he kept talking to me about during the Olympics.
Yeah.
When I was watching NBC cover the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, he kept calling me about tapioca. I'm like, I don't even want to say tapioca because everyone goes to pudding right here, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's all about
Sounds like it should be another name because it's not how you.
I know, but we could say mandioca.
Mandioca, yeah.
Okay, that's what you say the indigenous name, right?
Right.
I'd love to say mandioca too.
Yeah.
Like Darginho.
Yeah.
So it's it's like for me, it's always pairing up, and I tell my kids they're pretty much grown up, now, and we never wake up every morning feeling like the world is our oyster and it's going to be perfect.
Right.
But my God, if you can remember to get out of bed and if you're feeling like you want to stay in bed,
right,
get out, force yourself into a little communication with somebody, and boom, all of a sudden,
sometimes you play off the
switch goes.
Of somebody.
Yeah, because it's been my secret for a long time, and trying to figure out after friggin' 3 years. Okay, the first year trying to open a restaurant here, in New York, you deal about rats and mice in your restaurants.
Yeah.
I looked at this place saying we could turn this around in 6 months. Okay, little facelift. Started ripping the walls apart. Termite damage. Termites. Little tiny termites all the way up into the ceiling. Every single square inch of this place had to be replaced.
Wow.
And wow, did we have to go back and forth with city planning over here because we had to. And codes had changed. And we wanted to put a bar and take these pillars out to do it. And so, and then COVID. So for 3 years, and we still had to pay rent. And but believing that we had this really cool thing to do, and then we opened. And it's been a very strange time still.
Right, it's still adapting.
Now the economy, who knows what's going on? I don't know. But if you, if you have the belief, if you believe you can do something, and you hit those little bumps. Quite a few bumps here in New York. I think the longest, the coffee shop probably was the longest restaurant to open. It took maybe a little bit less than a year.
Right.
And that was it. And this has been a 3-year process.
Yeah, because you went through COVID, you went through everything.
Yeah, and then a year of trying to figure out how South Bay works, how it relates to the rest of Los Angeles, and what I love is the international airport.
Yeah,
It keeps people coming from there, and
yeah.
they're finding us on Google. We get good reviews. So.
And the reviews are amazing. They're all 5 stars. But yeah, I think every time, that's one thing that I always think about. It's like there's this thing. Going back to the fear, there's this thing where people think, "Oh, should I do this?" And then there's that fire inside of you that's telling you, "This is exciting for you to do it. You should probably pursue it." But then, because we're so kind of accustomed to doing the safe thing, we end up not doing.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the times, if you put in your head that I won't stop until it works, you end up working. The moment you put that thought in your head that, what if it doesn't work?
Well, where you get so focused when it's crunch time. And, I go back to when I opened Live Bait. I'd saved from my travelings a good amount of money.
Yeah.
The 5 of us that opened that place originally, we saved the same amount. We could put the same amount in, and we worked it. We built it, except for the serious electricity and plumbing stuff that we couldn't do. And my dad, being a military man, said, What are you crazy? You saved all this money and you don't even know how to operate a restaurant. I said, but Dad, I worked in them. I was a busboy. He was looking at me like I was nuts. Yeah. And it was not his calling in life. And, he passed away quite a few years ago, but he was always, for instance, with Live Bait. I said, Dad, I'm only 30 years old when I opened that. And I said, I'm only 30, but I feel like I can do this with the where I'm coming from and how we could have
people.
Yeah. And when we opened that 3 months later was Christmas time, and my dad, my mom came in from Florida, and he's like kind of squirming through all these people going through the bar, and he sits down at the table and he's going, I can't believe you. Look, where does this come from in you?
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, I don't know. But I had partners that I felt like, this is like one big party. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to try to make money at it. And that's how it started. And I feel like when you're crunch, you get into the strongest focus. And my focus was with my partners at the time, especially the 2 that I stayed with to keep going. Mm-hmm. Was that we had to friggin' focus.
That's to work.
Yeah, the money was there, but man, if we didn't manage it right, and if we didn't figure things out properly, one chef, the first chef we had, thought he was responsible for everything in the restaurant. Yeah. And he yelled us up the following Christmas, and we had to say, "Take a hike, dude. This is not you and your cooking. This is the whole picture.
Team. It's a whole.
Yeah. And that's ego, and you have to be careful of that too.
Yeah. Especially with a successful thing when it starts becoming successful. No, everybody owns it. Everybody's is a part of it.
But I never could have done it without a team, and that's what I feel is really important. Even as entrepreneurial as you can be, it's like you have to think about the parts. To have the success, and we're continuing to do that here in this restaurant. Mm-hmm. My cooking team right now is the best.
Yes,
we're getting great reviews. Mm-hmm. The food's going to get even better.
It's in the process now of becoming.
Yes. Oh yeah, and it's taken a while, and also it's hard hiring people. It's like,
that's another part of being an entrepreneur, especially for restaurants.
Yeah,
you have to have the right people.
Yeah,
the right energy. That represents the vision and all that.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Was there ever a place in this journey of yours where it was like not downfall, but it was something that it just took a lot of energy to come up again, to where things are flying high, going well, and something happened where you have to refocus.
Yeah. And thanks for bringing that up.
Because that's part of being an entrepreneur, right? That's like a huge part.
Oh God, yeah. I know. So I have, I have some age, and they say wisdom, but I think we all have our own hiccups in life, and boy, you can just go down the rabbit hole in a way if you don't put pull yourself together and by the bootstraps. And,
Yeah.
life is beautiful. And sometimes when it's
Something like after the coffee, like something that is coming up, the Divo
Oh.
Caipirinha.
oh, nice.
What is it?
The Divo Caipirinha.
Devo Caipirinha.
Devo,
coming
Devo,
up.
not Diva, but Devo.
Devo.
Okay.
Oh,
So
Thank
this is Carlos, right?
yeah.
So Carlos is magic, and I'm going to say this on your podcast because this is part of my energy, okay? And putting the pieces
But
together.
it looks.
Is that nice?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So Carlos is a talented fella.
Mm-hmm.
He's in my industry, like so many people are, and had great success.
It's really good, actually.
And still is an amazing. He's a mixologist also.
Yeah.
Met him when we first were opening this place, but we didn't hire him because it wasn't, it didn't all come together.
Yeah. You're kind of setting it up.
Well, yeah, we were different energy at the time, and he came back into our lives. And not only does he make a good cocktail, and he's a very important part of my team here, there's another element of what we're doing here, Bossa Nova. When I said that
Yep.
before, Bossa Nova, let me tell you something. When I designed this place and landscape and all that stuff, and Almir and his creative aspect too, a lot of fun stuff, creating the menu, his menu, the skeleton, based on this tapioca stuff, but relating it and blending it into an American kind of mentality, which he had a lot of because he worked with us in New York for 12 years and worked around New York for a while, went back to Brazil, and then also coming from University of Florida, Gainesville, his first 18 years old, like me, leaving the house at 18.
Yeah.
My dad was, again, in those days saying, you're going to be back here in a month. That was my motivation.
You're like, no,
I almost came back, but I didn't.
I bet.
And Almir left Brazil to find another experience. And
Yep.
He landed, he didn't know much English, but he could play soccer. He landed in Gainesville, University of Florida, and started getting a lot of friends just by connections with that sport, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a connection that he got. But Carlos played New York. He's a musician, talented jazz guitarist, and bossa nova singer.
Yeah.
So we have Carlos here. We're building bossa nova. We have bossa nova on Saturday nights, sometimes Wednesdays, but we're going to build that music aspect of this too. And he's part of us. You can see him here. He's the hospitality part of this, the face of our restaurant.
Yeah, you come in, you talk to him, it makes you feel welcome.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
That's that Brazilian nature, right?
Yeah,
So that's the rhythms of Brazil, I say, and bossa nova. And it's like this has a rhythm that when I design things, light, rhythm, movement, everything has life. And when you go to Brazil, the magic was for my partners that first time. It's magic down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, there's some issues going on down there right now with crime, but my God, the history.
The energy is completely.
Yeah. And,
Well, the cool thing about here is that you capture a different energy in Brazil. That it's like it's like the top level energy, where they're like where we all from there look forward to.
Yeah.
Which is hanging by a beautiful place, chill with good food and good people. That's basically what we look for in Rio, in Brazil.
Yeah.
Like
and you have good food down there,
And it's
all
great.
types of food.
Yeah.
It's like São Paulo is like the New York City of
São Paulo
Brazil
is
with
one of
the
the best
restaurants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gastronomy place that I've ever been to. Yeah.
So my biggest joy sometimes when a Brazilian comes in here, and I don't have to explain what tapioca is because they know what I saw and what I went out to lunch when I first got there 5 years ago when Almir, after the Olympics, kept saying, come on, dude, you got to come down here. I want to show you something. And I was going through that little hiccup in my life at the time. And I went down there to get away from everything. And there I was with his family, and he ordered tapioca for the table. And I'm looking at it. First of all, we were in a beautiful restaurant, a beautiful presentation. And I'm looking at this tapioca. It looked like a taco or a crepe.
Yeah.
And basically, that's what it is.
Yeah,
But the taco thing, the excitement of another entrepreneurial aspect of taking something to our country, that for the life of me, I don't know why tapioca is not used more, the gluten-free flour,
right.
than it is in our country. So that was the excitement of taking something that's not known here. And the challenge I felt with Almir and trusting and knowing him for so long. And let me tell you something, his operational skills, especially after leaving and going back to Brazil, doing a lot of the things that he did, he brings a whole different aspect to my own knowledge of our business and very creative. And I have to say that it's been a great joy. And also having his family near me is like, and my family, near his. So we're here.
Yeah.
We're here in El Segundo. And
Yeah, in the like you said, like it's Brazil has amazing food. It's not just
right.
a steakhouse,
No.
Steakhouse there's a bunch there too, but it's not. That's not what we eat every day.
Mm.
It's like a special occasion or a barbecue, a place of some
Yeah.
friend's house, but we have really good food. And what I like it here is like a fusion. It's a fusion of that food.
Yeah.
And it's very authentic in its flavor, and the presentation is amazing. The food is good, and the options is
Yeah, their options, and I was about to say is that Brazilians didn't know smoked protein in their tapioca, in their or tapi taco, we call it. And that's something I was doing. Well, we did some smoked items at Live Bait, but more importantly, the taqueria we opened behind the coffee shop was all about tacos and smoked protein.
Yeah.
And Almir saw that and thought, wow. So here, the fusion started way down there in Brazil, and we were saying, this is something. So when the Brazilian customer comes in here and they're saying, oh my God, look at how you're using the tapioca.
Right.
And also the pan de queijo is the slider, right? It's the cheesy bread, the cheese bread, right?
Yeah.
Using it as a slider, which is an American thing. That's the fun thing with the fusion.
Super fusion, very delicious.
And so we're loving, the Brazilians are coming in here, seeing something new and fresh and different. And then it's an education on gluten-free flour used the way the Brazilians do, but used in an American kind of way.
Yeah.
So I'm loving it. And we're still, feeling it out. It's a constant thing trying to find the right mix.
Right.
And also getting it out there.
Breakthrough to actually get people to know how good it is.
Right. And it deserves to have recognition, I think, because it's so well known in other parts of the world too, in parts of Africa.
Yeah.
Southeast Asia, tapioca.
The nutritious kind of advantage of that is instead of you getting bread, which is gluten and all that stuff, tapioca, which is my wife and I read all the time, it sustains you better. You're fuller for a long time. It's gluten free. So it's a lot better for your health, and it's delicious.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize like tapioca was used as a pudding thing here until like recently. I was like, oh really?
So my fun thing is, we have 3 amazing desserts made by this amazing pastry chef from Sao Paulo. She had several accolades with what she does, and she I have fun with the American customer. And when it comes to dessert time, I said, do you want some tapioca? And they're thinking it's pudding.
Right.
I said, but it's not what you're thinking. It's the brigadeiro. The brigadeiro
is amazing.
It looks just like the crepe, that tapioca texture, and with the chocolate and the strawberries and the coconut flakes. And sometimes I'll have to really explain what they're about to get, so they're not totally shocked by it. But other times I'm just watching them from the corner, like, okay, to see, and they're just chewing into it because tapioca does have a little bit of chewy texture.
It does. It's chewy,
which is a delicious dessert.
It's amazing.
And that's what's fun. And that's the other thing. How easy is it to make it home when you're using tapioca?
Oh, it's easy. When I was in Brazil, I went back to Brazil, I think in 2008. I was like, I'm just going to move back to my country and see if I could do it there. Make it. And then I got a job like 2 hours away from where, so it has to take 2 buses in the metro together every day. But my highlight of the trip was between the bus and me going into the metro. There was a lady that they made tapioca on the street, in those little stands that they just push around.
I know.
And
that's great, right?
Yeah. So you just
beaches here, right?
Yeah. It was so fast. It was on my way to going down to the metro, and then I'll stop it there. And my whole fun in my head in that 2 hour travel to work was that to think like, will I get the sweet one today or the salty one today? Because they were with cheese or with just butter. Sometimes I'll just get with just butter, and then sometimes I'll just get with chocolate. Which is that's the fun of it.
Well, it's I remember going to ski resorts, right? And you have the crepes, and the kids always wanted the crepes with the chocolate and stuff after skiing, whatever. But
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know what? The extension of what we're trying to create here is the more fun thing, like the trucks and the really focusing on that healthy gluten-free product.
yeah,
But we have a full menu here. But a great guy that I've known for a long time came in with his wife recently, and he's a filmmaker. He says, dude, this is amazing, right? So
yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, thanks, Michael. And he says, you got to get trucks. I said, well, okay. Can you help us get the trucks and get them into the films that you do?
Yeah, yeah,
He
of
says,
course.
not a bad idea. I'm like, okay, well, settle down, Eric. But this is what an entrepreneur gets excited about. Because it's the bigger vision.
Right.
But we got to stay focused, and we're focused right now on this particular restaurant to get it as fine-tuned as we can. And then it's the message. It's getting the message out there. And I really am appreciative of you having a podcast like this because, and you're curious, Felipe. I almost said Curious George.
Curious Felipe.
I'll start calling you George.
Yeah.
Here comes George.
Well, that's the thing that fascinates me too about entrepreneur, and I hope one day I get there to a successful place where I can say that's how
Well, being a filmmaker.
similar. Yeah.
It's
So
like that, yeah.
it's because if you focus on the basic thing that you're passionate about, there are so many opportunities to multiply by that. Like you're saying, like trucks, Tapzion trucks, people go nuts.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, you have to have the base pretty much well set.
The education has to be there because it's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So we have to get it out. We have to have fun with it, and we're having fun already. It's just a little more time. That's it.
And that's a good. That's another thing that I'm learning from you is that you have to have your eye on the price and figure out that step by step we'll get this right, and then you see what the next step is. Sometimes you could get people could get really kind of ahead of themselves and start. I'm gonna do this and that and then this and that. Like focus on what you're passionate about first, build that base, and then you start going out of that.
Adapting is really important because as you're like we were building this for a long time, and everything you see, even these tables, Amir and I painted during COVID, and and they're just kind of pickled a little bit, and the wood comes from a barn somewhere in Pennsylvania. But we had a lot of time to create, and sometimes you don't have that kind of time. But the thing is, you have this vision as you're working on this, and as we kept talking about it through the 3 years of building this, then you open it and you think you got it right.
Right.
Okay. Now, I know New York a lot better than I know Los Angeles, so we're adapting. We're having to adapt.
And you're learning about LA.
And we're also learning what makes people tick in certain parts of LA. Last night I was saying to you, I was at the Scandinavian Film Festival in a different part of LA.
Right.
It's popping a little different than it is here.
It's completely different.
Yeah. So this is also New York. You could be like where I located sometimes. People would look like, are you kidding? You're going to put a restaurant there? If you know your blocks, one block west or one block east, you could be totally off in New York.
Really? Wow.
I mean, you just have to have the feeling.
Yeah.
For us, we always look for subways. And that coffee shop was
right next to Subway.
Third busiest subway in New York City. So not that those people were stopping in our restaurant all the time. They were not. But but the energy is around. And people create energy, whether it's in creation or just in restaurants. So it's all about creating that. So the ambiance, the sound, our sound system went out with all the rain we had just recently, and we just really blew something out. But it's about when somebody walks in here, they're feeling it, they're looking at it.
Yeah.
But what you're hearing too gets the whole picture.
Yeah, everything, right?
Yeah.
Smell.
Yeah, and that's like being a filmmaker. It's like you have to have all parts of it working to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I think I kind of just appreciate how how much goes into being an entrepreneur, especially when there's something that might not be going how you envision.
Mm.
Like, how important is it to like follow your gut
Mhm.
for you? Well, is that something that you always thought about? Like, I just have to follow my gut. Because a lot of the times I feel like I have this feeling like I know I could do this and that, but then it's easy for me to just unfocus on that gut feeling and then
Yeah.
go with the normal, it's more comfortable.
Well, I think with what you create, I know what you create. I've seen some of your stuff, and when I first met you, I was like, you were here with your wife and your beautiful Noah, and I first met you and said, "Listen, I've been taking pictures and blah, 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 just put this little thing together. Can you just take a look at it? 20 seconds, right?" And we were trying to make our own Instagrams, right, in a very amateurish kind of way. And I sat down with Almir right next to you, and can you take a look at this? And I'm like, and you turn the volume up, and every time you edited it was going to the beat of the music. I'm going, oh my God, look at, and you're doing whatever you're doing like this, and I'm going,
Yeah.
damn. And it's like you also in life, I think you connect to people that you're
Yes.
and I also believe my life has been very fortunate in many ways. I never knew. I was a swimmer. I never knew I could make money with this, right? Ever. I know it. I never knew. And I was a nerd and all that stuff and military haircut. And my dad never let me grow my hair long until I moved to Miami. And then all of a sudden, oh, girls are looking at me all of a sudden. But I never knew that. I never knew I could. And then $50 an hour? Are you serious? And I'm killing myself, 3 different jobs, going to college and
Right.
and paying for it and all that stuff. And really, and then this one photographer said, go to New York, and then Eileen Ford, get out of here kind of thing.
Right.
I had no pictures really. So
Yeah.
then somebody else in the agency said, we have a sister company, a sister group in Paris.
Yes.
Oh my God, Paris. I was like,
Is that your first time leaving like the country?
no, I'd been, I'd left the country a few times, and I had summer jobs also driving for, like my godfather in a way, where he was a food critic, and I was starting to see different parts of the world a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I had the opportunity to go to Paris, even though I didn't speak French. I had my little Berlitz book. I was there for 6 months. Things really started happening for me. When I first got there, it was in August. An American photographer wanted to be a photographer in fashion, so this agency hooked me up with all this clothing, which, Miami, shorts and t-shirt.
Yeah.
That's about all I
That's all you
own.
need.
I'm like, all of a sudden I had all this like fancy stuff on. I still didn't know. I didn't really care about clothing at all, but
That's cool.
it was, and I lived in Paris, man.
How long were you living there?
Off and on it was my base, but I was always traveling throughout Europe. But I loved coming back to Paris. I remember 6 months in, when I was there, I was kind of hanging out with a fast crowd that was royalty from Santa Monica, Monaco.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
One of the little princesses there. She was
Really?
quite the princess.
Wow.
wasn't my girlfriend, but I was hanging out with that crowd for a little bit.
Yeah.
That was exciting. I was like 23 years old, I guess, and I was like, wow.
Hanging out with Princess of Monaco in Paris.
Yeah,
That doesn't sound bad.
Stephanie. Yeah. She was the way I met her was at a big dinner party one night. There's a seat that was open across the table from me. I was struggling. Everyone was speaking French. There was a girl from Los Angeles sitting next to me who spoke French. It was kind of nice, living in Paris for a long, long time. Yeah, but I was like a bump on the log, right, or whatever you want to say. And so I was fine, drinking wine, enjoying how everyone was conversing and watching a beautiful restaurant.
Yeah.
And finally, they were all waiting for somebody, and it was a girl named Stephanie, right? So I'll never forget Stephanie de Monaco. Didn't know who the hell that was, really. She walks in, everyone stands up. Stephanie.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? Who is this person? She sits right across from me. Beautiful. She looked like she was my age, but she was a lot younger. But she was.
She's like a princess of.
She was the yeah.
Wow.
Caroline and Stephanie was the youngest one.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm talking about this because I almost forget about that experience. But
That's cool.
But you know what was?
Was that kind of like the initial part of the
I was
experience in
I no
Paris?
I was in about 3 months by that time.
Okay.
But I was studying my Berlitz book, and by drinking wine, sometimes my mind would relax, and I was like beginning to understand French a little bit. I was too nervous to speak it, but um, so we're paying the bill. We're all throwing our money in and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden she says across the table, she didn't pay any attention to me. She just, whatever. I thought that was pretty snobby of her. But she says to me all of a sudden in a real American way, "So how do you like Paris?" To me like that. Oh, I was so pissed inside.
Yeah,
If I see her again, if she's here, I can't wait to see her again someday. But maybe I will, maybe I won't. But
that's cool.
I'll never forget that, because in that group of people, she had a friend that wanted to learn English, and beautiful friend, and I wanted to learn French, so she thought she could pair us together. Well, I remember walking down the street, and she, I held her hand a little bit.
Yeah.
There was like, we'd be looking at le voiture, the car. I'd say the car, voiture, yeah, the grass. Nothing ever happened between us, but
yeah. The good days.
But I was like, there's no communication.
With beautiful women.
And let me tell you something about communication. When you're involved with somebody, you better have good communication, because it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
That was never going to go anywhere. But,
yeah. It was a good fun.
But it was fun, and it was a different kind of scene, and they taught me that I should be wearing different clothes. So I had to go to this one boutique.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were dressing me, and I was like, really? I got to wear these tight little jeans?
Yeah, because it's a little different.
Smoking cigarettes, which I never did, but
yeah,
it's life is full of experiences, and you had to put your head down, and then always step into it. And you were saying just before, it was like, if you're just rushing into it and not pausing sometimes and trying to figure things out, which is part of the process here in Los Angeles, all of a sudden things open up. Like my kitchen just opened up because of something that happened at another kitchen in LA, and it's hard to do and have restaurants open right now. But some of the talent in my kitchen right now came from that particular restaurant. And you know what? The restaurant as it is right today would not have been this way 6 months ago. So
it's a completely different space now.
Yes, it keeps evolving, and we're always in this more than any other restaurant I had with my partners in New York is really going back to restaurant basics in a way, and having to pay attention, because when you open like we did in New York, you just have to pay attention to your customer and do the best you can, and then it keeps moving and it stays also. It's a constant,
It's a constant evolution. You have to adapt, but also it's a fine line between adapting and keeping your roots on what you actually believe in, and the things that you actually build upon. Which is in here is like the experience, how it feels to be here. It's a very unique place. It's a very unique place.
And after 30 years in New York too, there can be complacency a little bit. So then the energy can move out of the restaurant. And there's energy that always is needed. So the key players, it's like theater again.
Right.
The key players are your actors, and like Carlos.
Yes.
We talk all the time. I said, Carlos, for instance, Carlos is always going to be a part of us, but Carlos may not be here with us because he's a talented guy in other directions, but he's here right now. And he's part of the magic, and that's the great thing too. In the coffee shop, we had a lot of people that became well-known, whether artists or musicians, or even just recently the politician that's out there making it, shaking it up.
Exactly.
we can talk about her some other time, but she was a great employee and focused and working hard, and got into politics, and she's shaking it up right now. Yeah.
Oh, is it the mayor?
No.
Oh, okay, we can skip that.
Sandy Cortez is her name.
She was at the coffee shop?
Oh, yeah, she worked for us. She was.
Really?
You know what? I was like out here in LA looking at the New York Times to see who won the election, and I almost dropped to my knees. I was like, what?
No way. She used to work at the coffee shop.
Yeah. She was.
Wow. I see that. That's the thing.
But I'm proud of everybody that goes on to their passion.
That's
achieve.
And that's part of, and that goes back to what I was saying before. It's like a lot of the times people kind of chase the money and how I'm gonna make money, how I'm gonna make more, and but it's bigger than that. You creating something that is an experience, is an opportunity. It's a starting point for somebody. It's a place that maybe if she didn't go through that, she wouldn't be where she is now. So
Well, there are people like that. Like I say, not her so much because she was always coming back after going to college on spring break.
yeah,
And Carolyn, who was always in the hiring part of things, not always accepted and coming back all the time because things had changed or what. We had enough people, but
yeah,
we always appreciated her coming because she was a good, strong bartender and trustworthy too. Sometimes you find problems behind the bar, but or maybe she was taking all that money
and that's how I made
to run for politics. I don't know. I don't think so, though.
it. Yeah, no, I think,
but
yeah,
but there are people too. I saw some that became great musicians that are well known now that were very shy starting back in the day, and it gets you out of yourself. It gets you. You have to relate to people. It's painful sometimes, and I would say I was a very shy kid. I think for the most part, having to move all the time and move into a new environment every time. My dad had a different station, but you learn also sometimes becoming a chameleon.
right.
But then when you're doing that, you really have to dig down deep, I think, to really discover who you really are.
Yes,
Because
yes,
I think that's an important thing too. As I get older, it's like, okay, what really makes me tick, and be as honest as I can.
yeah.
It's hard to find it, but you just have to keep kind of peeling it away.
Right, and that's in this journey that I'm going through now. That's what I go back to. Like, how honest can you be with yourself? That's the toughest thing.
Yeah,
The toughest thing.
yeah,
It's easier to say, "No, I'm doing well. I'm great. Everybody's best for them. Everybody thinks that they're the best. Their life is
mhm,
the best, or some people think their life is the worst. But it's either an extreme. Nobody says like, "Oh, my life is pretty mediocre."
yeah,
But in your head, you might think sometimes that you're a certain way, but sometimes you're not. You have to kind of ask yourself a lot of questions, like,
yeah.
what are the things that drive me? Am I doing things just because it's easy? Am I doing things because that's how I was brought up? Do I break a lot of, like, what I call, like, my wife and I talk about this all the time. Like, how do we break our curses, our family curses?
Yeah.
You were saying your dad never wanted you to like move out, never wanted you to do your own business.
Never thought I could do it.
Yeah, they never thought.
Not he wasn't bad in that way.
No,
Just
it's not.
wasn't him. It
Yeah,
wasn't
exactly.
him. Yeah.
My wife and I talk about this every day.
You
almost every
needed
day.
that military
Yeah, it's like
go through the ranks kind of thing.
it's like we were brought up to have a great work,
Mm.
have a great job, work hard, so your boss can give you a raise. That's kind of like how most Brazilians really, or not even Brazilians, third world countries really kind of are brought up. Like have a great job that pay you a great worker.
Well, I think curious Felipe, um, what you're doing and what you're starting is opening it up, because when you listen to podcasts sometimes and you're listening to people, you're listening going, wow, he kind of thinks like me, or maybe he has the fears that I have, and any person has fears. We walk through it.
Right.
Someone just yesterday said to me two words that ring in my ear, and it's also as you go through and you're talking about to people, you're listening all the time and you're going, wow, this person said to me two very important things in my life right now: truth and purpose.
Right.
Truth. Figure out your truth, because then your purpose gets more connected. And to me, I like to put passion in there somewhere, but my God, to figure out your real, also to figure out by truth, you find out your gifts more, I think. And I don't think you ever stop searching if you're entrepreneurial or creative.
That's what I was gonna say. That's a hard thing to actually find out.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to be successful, but they just don't know how to, or don't even know how they want to. I want to be a great successful person, but okay, what's your plan
Mm.
to do that? Oh, I don't know. Like some things is gonna happen at some point. It's not.
Yeah.
If you don't know, going back to what's your truth,
Yeah.
what is it that drives you? What is it that you want to do? A lot of people don't know.
It's stepping into fear.
Yeah.
Fear stops people from doing a lot of things. People get very comfortable in their routine. Some people want to be union employees.
Right.
That's okay. Some people want to be famous.
It's
I
fine.
mean, I that's one thing in an industry that I worked in for a while. It's like it was way too much on the outside, not the inside.
Right.
The people I connected in that industry were people that have become a person that has a tequila that's very famous right now, I met in my industry. But why did I like him a long time ago? I'm not going to say who it is, but you could figure it out maybe.
I could probably figure it out. It's a good tequila.
Yeah, good tequila and knows people.
It's fairly new tequila.
But I met him.
Famous person.
I met him in Greece, and you know what? I liked meeting him because you know what? We weren't talking about that industry of that's from the outside for the most part.
Was he famous then?
No, we were just doing something that we could do, and I think we both enjoy.
Can we not say it? It's George Clooney.
Not George.
It's not.
No, but his partner.
Oh, his partner. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. You're like,
And that person used to come into my first place, going, "Dude, man, how did you do this?"
Really?
I'd say
you have a lot of famous people going in there.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah.
That was like a scenes from like Sex and the City in there, right?
Oh yeah, sex. Actually, Darren Star used to have before I got married, and when I got married, I had just had a triplex apartment that I'd renovated. Excuse me. I lived in Japan for off and on for a year, so it was very zen. And on the garden level, I created this really cool area. Anyway, I started having my first child with my beautiful wife, and
Yeah.
we were build these iron staircases to go up to the middle of the apartment. It was really cool, and I thought I was going to be a single guy, but all of a sudden this woman came into my life. You
Changed.
never know,
Yeah.
Like your wife. I
Right.
mean, my God,
Yeah.
you weren't expecting it, and
Yeah.
those that are searching so hard for it are not open to what's right in your face, right?
Yeah.
So, oh my God, we were trying to live in that apartment with my little forest, and she was starting to crawl around, and Noelle was saying to me, "Eric, we can't live in this apartment. It's too dangerous for our little girl." And I'm like, and then the beautiful furu kind of tub that I created downstairs, it's kind of a soaking tub, tile and everything, designed it like a Japanese kind of thing.
Oh wow.
I always envisioned being a single man.
Yeah.
When it was finally finished, because we were there as it got finished, what was I doing with my little girl? Splashing water.
Yeah. You're like, this
And
is
I'm
ready
like,
for something else.
this guy, like happily married, just crazy about everything that was happening in my life, and I'm all of a sudden realizing I'm splashing in this kind of cool thing that I had built, like, oh, it's my little girl, and look at her, she's so happy. So we had to move out of there. But I'm saying that because Darren Star was about to do something new in New York, and he rented my apartment for about 4 or 5 months. And I got to know him very well, and that's how the Sex and the City. See, this is the thing in my business too. It's like if you're open and you're talking and you're exploring now, being curious, things should start to open.
Right.
But you have to just be
Open.
yourself also. Be
Yes.
yourself. And Darren was great, and all that stuff happened. My ex-wife was in one of his shows for a while too. So
That's cool.
It is. Life is a journey, and right now, I'm laser focused, and I really I like talking about entrepreneurship because it's my thing. Never knew it as a kid
You've
in
been
high
doing it
school.
successfully for over 30 years now.
Yeah, but I almost feel like my partner in New York's mom, when she was alive, used to say to him, "Eric's kind of lucky." I'm like, she used to say that, used to kind of embarrass me, and it's like, I just felt like I met Charles as my friend. He was my friend first, and he wanted to open a restaurant, and
Right.
I knew something about building because I had another friend that, after 10 days, I bought a house in Montclair, New Jersey. Why did I like him? He was in my field. We were working somewhere,
Right.
He played golf. I knew how to play golf pretty well. We were very competitive with that sport.
Yeah.
He liked to push me fast. I like to slow him down.
Uh-huh.
I always get him. He beats my butt now because I don't play that much anymore. But you know what? In 10 days, he wanted to raise his family outside of the city there. And I went into Montclair with him. And I wanted to do something. I wanted to put my money. I wanted to do something. And he convinced me that why not? Let's build this house out. Let's make it better and
Right.
get the rent roll up. So I started building a lot of things. That came in hand when Charles, my partner in the restaurant business, brought me into what his passion was to open a restaurant. And then I knew how to play with stuff and build stuff. And that's what we did. We actually painted everything. We built stuff, a bait shack that was kind of sketched out by me.
Wow.
All
You
this
like
stuff.
literally sketched it out how you wanted.
Yeah, and there's a little sign on the top of it that said live bait. It's right in front of our name. Somebody else saw it there, and it said that we were the neon crocodile. Was,
Oh, you
I mean,
was?
we have stupid names like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just walking down the street going, "We got it! We got the name."
Huh.
And then in front of, I remember that one afternoon, live bait was on top of the shack part of this shack that we had as a bait shack with oysters and stuff like that. And the person says, live bait. And all of a sudden,
That's a great name,
the
actually.
connotation of live bait with where we were coming from. Okay.
You had a like a thing that actually had live bait in it, and then
Yeah, I just, no, it was real. It was real. I mean, it was our seafood bar, basically oysters and clams.
right. Oh,
But it was there, and we had amazing looking young ladies. My God, one of them, she came from the Midwest somewhere, really strong and kind of in the fashion world a little bit, but
Yeah.
she was cranking oysters open, you know,
Yeah.
and it was part of the show. Again, it's like theater.
Everything.
We
had-
created the show, the lighting, all these crazy things, and not having a lot of money, you really get frugal. You're frugal already, just trying to get open. But you're thinking. We went down to North Carolina. My old girlfriend had a cabin up in northern Georgia,
Yeah.
and we were bad. We were going down there with these old signs on trees, you know, like I don't know, bait this way, whatever.
You just take it.
Yeah, and Charles and Carolyn went down into Winnebago,
Yeah.
and they went and collected some stuff.
That's cool.
And they were just all beat up things that we used, and you know, tin, the corrugated tin was on all the scaffoldings in New York, and sometimes you'd see all this scaffolding just thrown out in the sidewalk, free, rusted, some of it.
Hey, those are cool.
We put it up vertically on the base of this Blarney Stone bar, 45 feet long. Beautiful bar. It was a bar. And we didn't have to do much to that, just recreate the back bar a little bit.
Yeah.
And we had the old registers with the plunk, plunk, plunk in the register. I mean,
Oh, really?
when computers came out, and the Micros people said that we'd save 5% in theft and loss. And that's pretty much true. The computers.
It actually worked.
Yeah, but they were dinosaurs back then. What we have here,
Yeah, that's
oh my God, state of the art, and gives you information like this.
right.
You don't have to have 3 people in the office anymore. You have a cloud. I'm used to filing cabinets. I'm going, what do you mean? I can trust a cloud?
Yeah, there's a cloud.
It
now.
still
Yeah.
is mind-boggling to me. But then we have here too, what mind-boggles me. I see surfer kind of people.
Yeah. It's a
And-
surf town. It's close to a
Yeah.
bunch of waves. I surf, so I know all these waves here. Surf.
Yeah, but they look like you, and guess what they are? They're aerospace engineers.
Yeah.
This is what's exciting about El Segundo too. We have an interesting community here, the residents, but we also have aerospace. We have the Howard Hughes of the days are here. We also have SpaceX right here.
Mhm.
We have a lot of interesting companies around here. Mattel, you know,
Yeah.
they have secrets. They all have secrets. You see these young people in here, I always tease them. Do you have secrets? Yep, they have secrets. They can't talk. They're working on certain things.
Certain things that nobody
Satellite
knows.
that's up there now, Mars right now. It's
Yeah.
like unbelievable. So this is a magical place in a small town, USA, right here. And George Brett came from here, the famous baseball player.
Right.
The baseball fields for the kids that learn how to play baseball. It's a very serious sport here in El Segundo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like a very sports-driven town. Yeah. for sure.
Surfing everywhere.
Surfing everywhere.
Yeah.
It's close by. You see,
Yeah.
if you stand here, you're gonna see some people just ride their bikes by.
Yeah,
And
with their surfboards.
and,
It's so California.
yeah, very.
I know.
Looks like a movie.
Just like right behind you. That's the beach. Your beach right there. There it is. Right. So this is our story too. This is on that side is where Amir comes from, Rio de Janeiro, and then here's the Amazon, the Pink Dolphin,
And it
and
divides by the LAX tower.
LAX Tower, and my favorite time of flight, and Bossa Nova, all that time. So when you come here too, it's like,
Pink Dolphin, which is Amazon.
yep, great story about that in legend.
Yeah.
Yep,
So cool.
yep, really cool.
Awesome. Well, Eric, I really appreciate it.
Oh,
This has
thank
been
you.
Very,
Yeah,
helpful, and I've learned a lot. That's
Yeah.
That's the
Oh,
curious thing. And,
thanks for opening me up. It's not too difficult.
and I seriously love
Thank you.
Tapzion.
Yeah.
I come here all the time, obviously, not just because
Well,
social media stuff, but I also
yeah. Well, we're appreciative of you too, and you're a great fan and inspiration for me too, just with what you do.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for being the guest of the first episode of Keep.
Wow, can't believe it. Can't wait to see the rest of it
Yes.
down the road, a year from now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna use this spot because this is unbelievable. Great.
Yeah, maybe we find Elon Musk or something.
Yeah, we'll bring somebody here.
Yeah. All right.
He's,
Okay.
he's right here. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Just somewhere around here. In a Tesla, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.